Hamitakiapi, I'm Shirley Snavy, and I'm joined by two newcomers to the ICT Roundtable, and economics is our topic today. Brandi Liberty lives in New Orleans. She's from the Iowa Tribe of Kansas and Nebraska and the United-Homa Nation. Her practice specializes in tribal housing, economic development, grant writing, and strategic planning. And Jonathon Okuté Maza is Cheyenne River Sioux. He's the director at the Tribal Anti-Corruption League and the Media and Marketing Director for the Next Level Communications. And thank you all for joining me. I want to note that we're recording this on Wednesday morning, Friday for the 4th. Things are happening so fast, it's seriously hard to keep up, but we'll do our best. Randy, I want to start with you. You work with a lot of tribes that rely heavily on government funding to operate. What are you seeing on the ground?
Well, I have not gotten a work email to say, "Hey, I need grant writing. I need this," in almost 2 weeks. I mean, that says a lot to me. I'm usually 70 emails deep a day, on work related things, and right now, a lot of our communities are trying to conserve. Try to understand what's happening out there. A lot of them have gone on tribal freezes for, making sure they're not spending unnecessarily, the travel and hiring freezes and all of that, just so that we can conserve until we have a better understanding of what's happening, at the federal level. There's so many different orders and restraining orders and executive orders and all these things coming through, just constantly the last, week and a half that we can't make rhyme or reason of like what actually needs to happen. And so, I've advised a lot of them, like, just stick to the game plan and prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Jonathan, how do you see tribes balancing the need for change at a high level? I mean, I think we'll agree that the federal government isn't perfect, but still we have a trust responsibility that's guaranteed through treaties. How should we deal with this?
Right. Yeah. Firstly, thank you for having me on. This is the necessary discussion, especially with all the questions that are happening. It's worrisome, but from what I've seen as far as economy in Indian country, we're dealing with the same old story, really, with budget cuts, fluctuations when it comes to a new administration, and that's the problem. Our security as nations is in the hands of these underfunded, mismanaged government programs that see us all as American Indians instead of hundreds of unique nations that we are as people, spiritualities, tribal nations. And it really is a wake up call, and it's good. I know this is a tough time, but I want to reassure Indian country that I understand government negligence exists, and we'll see that. But the federal government has that trust responsibility that we talked about for our treaties, and that includes education, welfare, infrastructure, and that isn't going to change, not without repeals and proceedings through district courts across 576 territories, and then that'll go into the the Supreme Court, and they will even have to go into trying to change treaty verbiage. So this is a good opportunity to focus on true community development. The BIA budget was 2.6 billion in 2015, and in 2024 it was 3 billion. So this number grows yearly, and yet we see in 99% of our tribes that we're still at the bottom of every social, health, and economic indicator in 2025. That hasn't changed. So it's time to cultivate this long form traditional led these economies that we have across Turtle Island, across the United States. And this conversation about our complete reliance on the federal government and the funding highlights this perfectly. So we have the resources, the talents, the leaders, and the guidance to be our security. And that's why my organization, Next Level Collaborations, Western Hemisphere Indigenous Network, we created Tackle, and we watched that video. I think that's why you contacted me. But it's clear that our self determination needs protection. Our leaders need to be transparent, and there needs to be accountability. And this is for 7 generations ahead. So, what better time now than to start this conversation and start implementing it?
Brandy, did you want to respond to that?
No, I mean, absolutely. I think COVID was the first wake up call of changing times for our leadership within Indian country. They realized, hey, we can't work we could still work in our traditional ways, but we have to navigate into technologies and things like that that help serve us. We had to continue to function, and people were first forced to work from home. And I saw COVID as a positive change for Indian country because we did have that shift when everyone is so afraid of change. And now this is, like Jonathan was saying, this is the wake up call. This is the real life. I have been telling my communities for years, the ones I work in, that we always see a slight shift in any change of administration every congressional term when we, switch between, the different partisan groups and stuff. And I said, this time around, guys, it's going to be worse than that. And this is how we need to prepare for it. This is what you should expect. And and last week, in the last 2 weeks, I've watched that playbook happen, and I'm like, part of me kind of felt validated because I was like, whoa, it is really happening exactly how I thought it was going to, and I'm like, okay, like, guys, I'm not getting emails because I'm getting phone calls like left and right. What do we do? How do we do this? How do we handle this? And I'm like, if you followed what we've laid out strategically, at least with the communities I've worked in with strategic planning and stuff like that, I'm like, there's a reason we diversify funding sources. There's a reason why we continue to build our capacity. And you now need to follow that plan that we laid out that is based on these expectations.
That's true. You're in New Orleans, and the Super Bowl's coming up, and I understand you've had some young people there to participate in events. So how are they doing? I mean, COVID was awful for our youth. Are they okay? How are their parents?
They're doing great. We have the California Indigenous athletes girls flag football team that is here, and flag football is becoming a huge sport. It's going to be in the Olympics in 2028, and the NFL is pulling in teams, and they have been trying to talk with just different people I know across Indian country on how do we get some of the indigenous teams involved. And so, ironically, I met the Native Youth Foundation, which is a nonprofit in Southern California, and out of San Diego County, and they have the California Indigenous athletes, and we decided to bring them here to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. They're playing a celebrity girls flag football game tonight, and so it'll be these girls that are freshmen to seniors in high school, playing against a lot of the native models and hairdressers and designers, and our form of celebrities in Indian country, playing in that game. And last night they got to walk the runway and their first fashion show with Red Berry Woman and Rebecca Jarvie. So, they got to work with some amazing designers. They get to learn the behind the scenes of what the fashion world is like and get an understanding of being able to, even if your sports career doesn't take you someplace as an athlete, there are still things to be able to do in sports from, behind the scenes, and how that looks and how that can work for them.
And Brandy, one of the things that you're talking about really is private sector economic development and that individual spirit of entrepreneurship. Jonathan, are you seeing more of that in your work, that tribal people are just taking business into their own hands?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think this whole situation is, and even COVID really started this. Was showing Indian country that we have the ability to have our own business. Right now, it's really hard in Indian country as far as on our reservations, our economy is not there. So we have to really work with our tribal councils to start implementing our own constitutional amendments to make sure that our economy can start growing. Right now, there's a lot of red tape, for our people to even, let's say, grow a garden for the community. This is something that has hindered our ability to even, start businesses, and then so that led to the mindset that we can't start businesses. But with the internet in a new age of trading online, people are doing that and making a living out of it. And this now we need to think, because it's not sustainable that way though. So we need to think about creating a foundation for to build businesses physically on our reservations. So when people come through, they have us there.
One of the things you said was about the way that the Trump administration is going, and it really is such a game change. And now the new buzz about Gaza. But I'm wondering, um, RFK Jr. is going to be our, looks like it's going to clear the way to be the new Secretary of Health, and I want people to understand how much that means to Native Americans in the fact that that's where the IHS budget is, the Indian Health Service budget. And that's a huge thing for Native Americans. I mean, that's a life or death kind of situation. And I mean, let's talk about what's going on that's positive. I mean, are you guys excited about anything that you're seeing, Brandy?
In this administration right now, no, other than the fact that at the tribal level, we are now forced to come together as a community again, just like during COVID. Like we have to rely on each other. We can't have this lateral violence, and intertribal lateral violence. We've all got to come together and have a common consensus. I mean, I work with hundreds of tribes across Indian country. Every single one of them has a lot of the same issues. And so they're not alone. And so it's understanding that they're not alone. And this is a great time for us to come together and build that foundation to stand up for our sovereignty, our self-determination, and make a positive difference, in what we want to see within our next 7 generations and our current communities.
And Jonathan, what about you? Are you seeing anything positive?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing a lot of positivity in our communities. I really just focus on our communities, and I know we're worried, but out of that worry comes education, and out of education comes the foundation of our true movement, which is sovereignty, the self determination. We have treaties protecting us. This is really opening even our own tribal councils to start studying our laws. We have so many laws that actually protect us that were meant to benefit them. So right now, like let's say the Appropriations Act, that is an act of Congress that they will need to repeal or amend to even get to our status as American Indians to even open up the conversation of citizenship. So there, and then beyond that, there are dozens more policies they'll have to break down. So I don't see Trump being able to do that. I don't see any administration really focusing on Indian country in that regard because we are so small. But we do need to be prepared, obviously, for everything. And yeah, like I said, education will help us prepare for that, and that's what this is open up to. And that's the positivity that I've seen is everybody willing to step up, read their treaties, read their laws, and ready to stand behind our true traditional leaders.
Well, we'll have to leave it at that, but I want to thank you both for this wonderful conversation
Yeah,
and good luck this week.
thank you.
And go team, whatever team you're cheering for. So joining us today, Brandi Liberty from New Orleans and Jonathon Okuté Maza, now from Minnesota. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
guys. Have
you.
a great day.